but we're trying to control what we can control. And we're getting so much energies at the point of control as opposed to actually creating this conducive environment where we can actually see growth and we can see impact. Conducive environment where we can actually see growth and we can see impact. If we look at mobile money was never a government initiative. What we liked about mobile money is Kenyan guys started it and the government looked at it and said, we don't understand it, but let's move on. When it came to Uganda, the same story happened. We don't understand it, but let's move on. When it came to Uganda, the same story happened. Central Bank looked at it and said, we're not yet sure about how this thing works, but go to a bank and let them hold this account and do your business. It's only in 2013 that BOU actually had some kind of policy guideline around mobile money. But imagine what impact it had done. So, if government had said we're not going to roll out mobile money, we would never have gone to that point. We never got the impact that we have today. So, when we're talking about inclusion again, and I said sustainable inclusion is really market driven, because at everything that government does, as my colleague talked about earlier, is there is a policy, there's a process, there's a sign up, there's something. That journey alone does not work at the same pace as our markets are working. So I don't really believe in creating policies that are going to open the market. I believe in letting the market grow and then guide it if it goes off the rails. But do not try to create the rails, because we do not know where this thing is going. We haven't got a clue where it's going, so just watch it, guide it if it goes off the rail, but let's let it grow on its own.
Badru, you say sustainable inclusion is market driven. At the same time, you understand because of things like price and affordability, we are actually keen on getting the internet because of its value to the very last man. This guy cannot afford it, but we know that if he was on the internet, his life would be better. This is chicken and egg a little bit, but this particular statement you made seems to be at odds with that principle. Let's get it to the guy who can't afford it. What do you have to say about this?
Okay, so if you look at what UCC has in terms of the universal service obligation, so all the network operators have a particular obligation to extend their networks to a point. Okay, that's the intervention that allows that. And
yes.
On the next level,
that is an intervention that allows it. But you are saying you want this to be completely market driven. What my interpretation of this is, you are not exactly supportive of such an intervention. Is that correct?
No. Remember this. You see, in any market, for example, we wouldn't be enjoying the MTNs and the networks we're enjoying today if UCC did not exist. UCC could not have existed if the government did not exist to create UCC and the regulation environment. Okay, so we have to appreciate that exists and that will always be there. Now, when that is created, UCC, the policy is created, UCC comes up with a policy and it licenses the MTNs of this world. The example I gave about mobile money, they allowed it to grow, then it got to a point where we needed to regulate this because it has an impact on the economy. So a level of regulation is needed and guidance. That's what I said. When it's going off the rails, guide it. Market driven again, the way we extend it to the market is some kind of policy regulation can come out to enable the extension. Maybe a price level for those of the pyramid, something different that enables that growth, but not you trying to do that growth because you don't have the ability or the capacity to grow and adapt as fast as the market is growing today. There is no government in the world that has the ability to do that. The only governments that are able to do that is in the defense space, and that is in US, the first world, because of the amount of budgets they spend in that space. So we, in our wonderful markets that we love so much, have to let the market drive this and then control it.
Thank you very much, Badru. I am seeing a hand already from Gloria, and I was opening up the space at this point in time. I know we are supposed to have 2 more interventions from our panelists, but I'm going to open this up and we're going to go both ways, starting with Gloria. Gloria, the microphone is here. And I was actually thinking about Gloria, I representative from the ministry vis-a-vis the ones from NITA, because I saw the position the NITA representation was taking. But Gloria, please.
Thank you very much, Bas. While I represent the ministry, I'm here in my own capacity as an internet user. So I'm speaking as Gloria, not as Gloria, representing the ministry. One thing I would like to appreciate that government has liberalized the sector. The environment that we are working in right now, the ICT sector as a whole, if it was not for the liberal sector that we have been given to operate in, the likes of mobile money, the likes of M-Cent, they wouldn't have thrived. So I'm just making a comment that it's just the best that government do at the moment. While it cannot come in to run the show, it has no capacity to do that. So that's why they have the liberal sector there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any other interventions from the floor? There is one over there. There is 2. We're going to take 2, 3, or 4 questions, and then we'll defer back to the panelists. We shift between responding to questions and making submissions on the questions already posed. Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself before making the intervention, and make the intervention very, very short. Thank you.
Hello. John Katam is my name. I'm an internet user. If you would say I'm from the internet. Can you hear me? So I want to thank Dr. Abdul Busuluwa for his wonderful job when it comes to accessibility for people with disabilities. But also, I want maybe note a statement to be taken that a lot needs to be done. Recently, the RCDF project has been going on under the UCC of what they are calling Digitize Uganda. We are trying to instruct the local people on how to use the internet and the basics in the local languages across the country. But the challenges we are having, we are getting people with persons with disabilities, and there is no gadget, there is no instrument we can be able to use to convert, because people have various disabilities. So you find that they come in, they are maybe nodding their heads or anything, but they've not appreciated the content we are giving them. But at the end of it all, government is saying we have trained or we have done a digitized Uganda across the world. So there is still a problem. I don't know whether it's our people from the NITA that will address this issue, or someone else should come in really to help. Otherwise, we are not yet there. But they will give you statistics that we have trained people with these numbers, which is really not the truth, because content has not been appreciated. Thank you.
There was someone else with a hand behind.
Hello everyone. I'm Justin from Campabit, and I personally am a trainer at Campabit. And then I like the fact that Mr. Abdul mentioned the point that people with disabilities need to be motivated, because among the students I'm training, 8 of them are deaf, and then we're training them how to code, like program using the computer. 2 of them are lame, but then I find that among the 8 students, all of them are boys. We have no girls. And then when I tried to ask Lydia, the lady who brought them, she was like, the girls are there, but then maybe the feeling maybe, I don't know, but then the society tends to ignore them, and then they feel like they can't do it, so they need direct motivation. And then also, when we're trying to like opt for like a digital inclusion, we should like go back to the kids. Because I participated in the Africa Code Week, and then I just like what the primary kids could do with coding. And then we believe coding is the new language, every child is to be fluent. So as we're doing digital inclusion, let's go back to the primary schools, and then I start from high school. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. There is another hand at the front here, please. Here at the front here. We'll take this and then defer back to the panel.
Okay. My question is to Christine.
Kindly introduce yourself.
I'm Gregory, okay, a cyber security analyst. My question is to Christine. It's do you plan to roll out any programs like hackathons with the technologists to actually invite us to build technologies that would help such people with different abilities to access the internet? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll stop at this point, defer back to our panelists. There was an ongoing discussion before, and there are some reactions from our attendees here. Please, let's start from Evelyn.
Yeah, thanks. You asked about specific things that we'll be doing, especially to improve access and all. And I don't know how many of you had a chance to read the affordability report. It just came out a few days back. And in there, they list countries in rankings of affordability drivers index. And you have countries like Malaysia, Peru, Costa Rica, who have done really well in ensuring that they drive access, affordability, and what they're doing. And in some of the things, if you read through and see what they've done best than the countries, Uganda ranks at 36. Of course, we are really down below. They have taken in place some policies that have really worked. They've looked at the gaps in the space and actually develop policies that work. So I think what we need to do, especially for the Ugandan context, is to think about some of those things that have been gaps. For instance, public access, how to ensure that there's meaningful access, public access for everyone to access the spectrum management. When I think of the work that BOSCO is doing with community networks, spectrum is really key in advancing that other way of connecting people to the internet. And just also speaking about that, if we could not only, yes, infrastructure development is great, but how about also prioritizing things like community networks? The Internet Society is a big advocate of community networks, and one of the things is that, for those of you who don't know what a community network is, it's when a community really comes together and they think about a problem within their community, and they create a connection out of that and solve the problems faced in their communities. So it doesn't matter if your problem is maybe ensuring that children in your community read well, a community can come together and find ways of actually, building a community that helps give children access to reading. If it's maybe running water and that's the problem within the community, communities come together and actually make up their own community networks. It's a model that has been working, and I think that we need to do more in advancing more of those alternative ways of connecting people so that everyone gets online. So I think there's a need to look at the policies more deeper and prioritize those policies that making countries such as Malaysia and Peru on top of the list, and most of those are spectrum management, public access, and all of those other good things. Thank you.
Thank you. I think in terms of access and affordability, I think Evelyn has talked about it. When we looked at what we call creating an enabling environment for providing services in the countries, different countries. In Africa, we have, as he said, we have about 11 community networks that are currently functioning well, and then they are providing access and trying to make sure that policies geared towards affordability and access to the different ICT-related opportunities are actually created. For example, when you look at our country, Uganda, we have so many efforts by different stakeholders, different innovators, trying to make sure that we have at least an environment where access to information is at all levels, where everybody is able to access. But when you looked at the issue of social network, people looked at that as something that is really not creating an environment that allows people to have good access to the different information. So we looked at that as something that how best can we come in, how best can we make sure that the language is not that we are using the social network platforms, but how best can we have an environment where everybody speaks the same language that helps not only the government side, but also help the key players that are trying to make sure that things work out. Sometimes when government come up with the policies, for us, the community and other people always agree and accept. And also when community come out with their bylaws, sometimes we push the bylaws to the government and it's always accepted. Why can't we have a common policies where all the communities and government actually have an harmonized point of view and make sure that we have access on both sides? But when you look at access to information, it's always there, but to some extent it's not yet adequate for us to see that in the country where we feel there is freedom of press, freedom of access to social media, it's really something that we need to look into that. But sometimes also we kind of create environment where we are also pushed to the wall, where we may not be able to actually defend ourselves, because in many other countries, examples are there. Social media has been used, it has been abused, and to some extent that also gives a leeway to the policymakers to say, oh no, I think we need to actually put some stop somewhere. So how best can we all come up with a kind of a customized policy that create an empowering environment for all of us to have information share, information access. What we are looking at, the rural-based community, how best can we have information and policies that actually allows them also to have access, to have an affordable means of getting the information? Do we really see that the affordability is there? We can talk about affordability, we can talk about access. How many people in our rural community have access to the internet? How many people are able to afford the internet? How many people have the internet cafe moving near to them? How many people have mobile phone that is able to actually get them information that they need? So we need to see how best can all this come out and help not only the policy makers, not only the key stakeholders who are practicing the use of this, but also people who are still coming in, the new generations, and even the other age group that sometimes they looked at us as they are now left out. But for us as BOSCO, I think we have tried our best to include all the age groups. We have tried to include any denomination in terms of religion. We have included the disability people in our services, though not all could access because the devices, as somebody said, may not be there because of the cost and other issues that we may not be able to afford. But we have tried to create a kind of a customized environment where everybody access the services. Because we have also placed the computer centers in the mosque where youths who go to access services in the mosque access the services. People who go in the sub-county, in the schools, in other environment where people feel, in the refugee center. Currently we have 12 community centers that we have placed supporting the refugees who are from South Sudan and also helping the host community who are in West Nile region. So we looked at this as something that we have tried on our own and also enhancing where government has not actually been able to do. So how best can we enhance both sides? We can enhance government side. Government also need to enhance the side on where we are actually trying to do. This is how we can actually make sure access and affordability be real in our community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any other reactions from the floor? I can see 3 hands. I am going to cap it as those 3 hands. Please help me get the microphone, starting from Daniel at the back. We'll take the 3 interventions and then we'll close. Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself and make the intervention short. Thank you.
My name is Daniel Pio, a member of the Internet Society chapter of Uganda and also director of Cyber Law Initiative. I just want to make a few reactions to what Mr. Badru Ntege had submitted earlier on concerning the sustainability growth of the internet, which is driven by the market forces. Then also give examples of how mobile money started growing from Kenya. They didn't understand what it was, but they let it to grow, and the same happened in Uganda. So the argument was that we ought to create a conducive environment for the internet to grow rather than control it. I just want to take a different path from that submission, because I think letting something go without guiding it is also a big problem in itself. For example, sometime in May, there was a gentleman that tried a transaction with MTN mobile money which backfired, and he couldn't access his money back. So many issues came up when he ran a Twitter hashtag called MTN when they call. And the CEO of MTN had to come out, then news agencies had to pick that up. So that highlighted some of the challenges that we have with this issue of mobile money and the absence of regulation, proper regulation of the same. So I think the same thing should be done to the internet. The internet shouldn't really be just like an abandoned child. We shouldn't treat it as though it's in the wild, it has been given birth to, and it's going to grow on its own. But I think we should feed it and guide the direction of growth. So when it comes to the issue of market forces driving accessibility, I think sometimes the government has a bearing on how the market forces are going to evolve. For example, the OTT tax. You cannot place a tax, and when you look at the statistics of the majority users of the internet, the penetration last year was at 31.3%. So when you put a tax of 200 shillings to access some of these platforms, when majority youth are unemployed and they're trying to use these platforms for innovation, you can no longer bring in the argument of market forces driving access when it is the government that is placing a certain market force that makes it impossible for young people to have access, much more for the people with disability. Yet this is a platform that they used to be able to communicate and circumvent the various disabilities that they have. Thank you.
Please, there was someone right in front of you. On the table right in front. Please introduce yourself, make the intervention short.
Okay. I'm called Shamin. My concern is about the accessibility. Of course, there's no way we can increase the accessibility of the internet without technology adoption, like phones and so on. And especially such groups like illiterate people. For example, there are many old people who have smartphones but can't use them to search the internet. So that's a knowledge gap. Maybe there's need to raise awareness or look at interventions that help our old people according to the requirements on ground. I think that's it.
I just am a bit concerned on the issue of the extent to which the aspect of accessibility for those minority groups has been touched by the panelists. Perhaps when it gets back to you, personally I'm interested in women as usual, among other minorities. So I'm hoping the panelists will touch on accessibility and inclusion for those kind of groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last is this way.
Thank you very much. Once again, Gloria Katu. I am an internet user. Currently welcome to the Ministry of ICT. I would like to just maybe shed a little bit of light that the Ministry of ICT has done. We agree that there's so much that has not been done with persons with disability, or the word is different abilities. There's so much that has not been done, but right now, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, the number of stakeholders, including UNICEF, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Education, is into the process of developing policy instruments for ICTs with persons with disability. These policy instruments include the National ICT Policy for Persons with Disability, accessible publishing guidelines, accessible ICTs, procurement policy, an electronic policy monitoring tool to track progress of implementation of policies on assistive technologies to ensure inclusive access to information education. So those are some of the interventions that government is trying to do to bridge the gap. Secondly, somebody mentioned about what government is doing for, if they are going to hold, he was asking somebody from NITA, if they are going to hold hackathons to address these challenges. Right now, there's a program under the Ministry of ICT called the Innovation Program. I know most of you have heard about it. We are calling young innovators to come up and innovate to solve public needs or public gaps, the gaps within the public sector. So I know some, if you've been following, you've seen a number of innovators that have been supported, like the guys who have developed the Bulila app, who have developed M-Pharma, who have developed Bladder, I think. There are a number that have been involved. So you just look up innovation projects under the Ministry of ICT and see how you can participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Back to our panelists. We'll start with Abdul. Please, this is the opportunity for you to do two things. Respond to any questions and give us your closing remarks. 3 minutes, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, and it's heavier, so maybe the quality is a problem. Okay. I also, there's somebody who talked about the RCTF project and maybe it's not creating the right impact. Yes, I also have issues with that project with the UCC, and people who are familiar with the UCC, my question to them is that, are you really involving the right people with disabilities to do the rural part of it? How are you involving us to ensure that people in the rural areas really access the internet and have the right equipment? Because at least in as far as I'm concerned, not so many organizations of persons with disabilities have been involved directly with the RCDF project. And remember, this is where our taxes go, because the universal service tax, which is charged, is it 2% on every digital transaction that we carry out? So really, we need to get to know the right people that you are using or contacting to ensure that things work out. Because if you don't have the right people, then chances are high that you're throwing things to the wrong people and you get wrong results. Somebody again talked about digital inclusion for women. I think the biggest issue here is about how we digitize the traditional gender roles and ensure that the those traditional gender roles don't get into their way of using the internet? Do those women own their phones? Do they have access to networks that they can discuss with? Those are some of the very interesting issues. Do they have the money to continue subscribing for the use of mobile phones and the internet? So if those questions are answered, then it becomes very easy for women to be part of the digital world. I personally have an interesting study that was done some time back, about 8 years ago, for about 4 or 5 countries in Africa, and how women access the internet. It's an interesting one. And probably we need to do local studies of that nature. There's a question that was asked Christy straight away, but I can give it a shot. When we talk about what the NITA-U is doing and how effective people with disabilities are being included, those ICT guidelines that you've heard about are the right thing in the right direction, but the technological part of it, I think, is very, very important. And when we talk about cost, yes, there are very expensive assistive devices, but when you talk to us
within the ministry and the portal that is being developed with partners, on this portal you will be able to find activities about people with disability, tools that they can use, what is going on within the country, events and that kind of thing. When it's done, we shall share so that if there is any information that you need, you can always access. But I also, maybe another thing that I've picked up, the hackathons that you talked about, maybe as part of the criteria of selection, accessibility of the solution can also be included, or if you participate and you have a solution or something that you've come up with and it is beneficial to this community, it will be something that will be prioritized, because as we advocate for inclusiveness or accessibility, this is one of the ways that people will be able to focus and develop solutions or provide services that are accessible. Someone talked about women. As NITA or the ministry, we also partner with organizations that discuss women-related issues. I think next week or in 2 weeks, there will be a training for the women, how to use IT, market their businesses and that kind of thing. So when they are in groups where they discuss issues of inclusion or issues that relate to them, it becomes easy to mobilize them or be deliberate on the initiatives or things that you can come up with to ensure that they utilize the internet or the ICTs, as it were. But as a ministry and as an agency of government, we continue to fight and ensure that everyone can use ICTs. It's work in progress, but any opportunity that we get to support or create awareness, we quickly take it up. So if you have any event on any issue and maybe accessibility is an issue, we can get you in touch with people who can help with the training. If they're developers or innovation hubs or anything like that, we are always willing to support and help to ensure that inclusion is part of something that we fight for or push for.
Thank you very much. As you make the submissions, the last 2 panelists, we concentrated a lot on what government can do in the way of enabling environment. I would like to hear something what the private sector can also do, those pragmatic steps that you and I can make as a contribution to digital inclusion. 3 minutes, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with 1 or 2 questions quickly, just get some audience participation. How many of you pay as you earn your salary at the end of the month? There's a deduction at the end of every month. Everybody pays a salary. If you're paid a salary, you pay, right? When you go buy something, there's this line called VAT, okay? Whether we like it or not, we cannot exist in a society without paying something called a tax. There's somebody who says death and taxes are inevitable, right? So sooner or later, that is going to happen. I'm going to have to pay that. So, and I don't want to go back too deep into that point. Then there was another point about regulation. You cannot regulate what you don't understand. The minute we want our government to regulate the technology before we've consumed it, we are dooming ourselves because they don't understand it. Even when they regulate it, with all due respect, they can never understand the depth where the technology is going to go. So regulation worldwide is a living document, because as we get to use the things we use, we learn new things. That's why the parliaments are always very busy. They very rarely look at new things. They're looking at changing and adapting existing acts, etc. Very rarely do you find that the agenda of the parliament is all new, all right? There's always new things. So the issues you talked about, the mobile money, it happens because we're using this product, right? So what I was going to talk about earlier was inclusion. For me, has 3 waves, and we've seen those waves, especially when you're coming from the bottom of the pyramid. So your first wave is really the device, the extension. The fact that you actually, we used earlier to call it a computer. How many people have computers, etc. But now this battery operated, what is it? System came. I'm no longer calling it a phone, it's a BOSCO, okay? Now when it came, we used it and was using mobile, before the mobile money we used SMSs and all that stuff. But a killer app had not arrived yet for most of us until mobile money came, right? That was the killer app that drove this inclusion. That's the reason that you wanted your grandma to have a mobile phone in the village. Why? Because you could send her money, right? Most of the people in the villages got into this technology, especially the mobile phone, because we had a particular use. We could actually send money to all of these people. So that was the first wave. Then the second wave is the leverage. Okay? So for me, the leverage is what we're seeing today. 2 years ago, how many of your border drivers had a smartphone 2 years ago? They all had a cartouche. True? Because there was no need. I love it every time I'm passing by a border and he's going like this. Yeah, he's actually on either Uber border or Taxify. Do you understand? Okay, that's the second wave that we're going through. That the inclusion is driven by market forces, right? You bought your grandma a phone in the village, not because you could send her SMS, because you could send her money, right? Majority of people get into that inclusion. The next wave for us is going to be the platforms. We're already in there. Now the platforms is now where people are now getting very much the OTT stories coming in, okay? And in that space, I think this week, the British government put 2% taxes on some of the OTT services. And last year, I think we're in this room when I was talking about the OTT discussion, and I said, guess what? A lot of global governments are looking at this crazy African government that is doing this thing and are quiet. Will they get away with it? Guess what? Just watch this space. These taxes are going to come in because it's a service that is utilized. I mean, they did the numbers and it's being utilized, but it's not paying. So I think we're going to have to know that we're going to live with it, but then focus for me on the value and the leverage. The simple example I'm giving you, and just walk around today, and see how many border people are holding smartphones today, right? This was not the picture a year and a half ago, right? Suddenly they're there, and suddenly we're getting the value. Suddenly, you also have your border. You sit here, I do my Taxify, and within 5 minutes, it's at the gate. True? You're not actually standing by, waving, stopping. Right? So for me, inclusion, that's why I keep on saying that it is driven by the market, sustained, supported by government, right? The government will create, so sooner or later you're going to have problems with the Uber borders and the taxifiers of this world. Regulation will come in to put that in order, right? But this regulation does not understand what to do about it today. So we cannot ask them to even start thinking. For me, even if government tried to regulate the Uber taxis and whatever today, I would say not a good idea. Let it run for a year or two. Let's understand the pitfalls, the benefits, the opportunities, and let's put guidelines around it. We can't start doing it today. And really for me that is this. So let's understand the waves. Your first wave, your second, and then now the third wave is when the platforms come in. That's when I want regulation. And we're seeing it already happen. That's what the taxes issue is coming in, mobile money tax. That is coming in because of the third wave. We're at that point. And I'm going to go through another cycle of inclusion as other services come. But it can only happen through the market. Thank you.
So, more than half of the population today is still offline. That's a fact. So I want you guys to just think that while we're here and excited about connectivity and being online, more than half of the world today are offline. And most of those are people who are lower income earners, they're women, they're people with disabilities, they're people who don't have, the means to afford, first of all. So affordability is one of the key issues that we've been talking about. And so, yeah, the lady there talked about women. So it's, for me, access and women is actually something that I really advocate for. More women, online, to get more women have their businesses online. That's why I'm a big fan of companies like Simba Women, and that's why Mary Helder is, how do we have more of those private sector people who are just doing what they can to ensure that people they have the right skills, they have the right training to actually be part of the internet of opportunities. So we need to do that on a private sector, I think, aspect. When Douglas asked what can we do as ourselves, we have so many women who are building products. Be a part of that. How can you build products that are conscious of what women are doing? Don't let men be the ones to build the products that we use. A cancer machine is being designed and, by a man. Why don't we get women in those positions where we can actually, because we know the issues that affect us most, be empowered to do some of those things now. So in terms of trainings, I think we have to start there. What are some of the issues that affect women directly? Most women are being driven offline because of violence online. There's a lot of things that happen online to women. You post a picture and it's really cute. So there's so many things that keep women off the internet, and we need to address those first on either training, but also doing a lot in that work. And lastly, my submission today, I don't agree with Badru with a lot of things he talked about taxation. I absolutely don't agree, because I believe there's a better way, there's a good way to actually do taxation, and it doesn't have to be taxing the actual person. When you think about affordability, we're talking about affordability and access. We're trying to get the next billion online, and then instead of making that possible, you're putting a tax and making sure that those people, the services are more expensive and people are kept offline. In Benin, when they did their mobile money tax, the social media tax, 1 GB of data skyrocketed to 250%. Imagine, how can we be talking about affordability and in the same vein trying to run such laws like taxes on social media? There's better ways of doing taxations. Economies have done it that are better than us and they've succeeded. So I don't think that there's a one way of saying, yeah, because everyone has to pay taxes, then the tax has to be imposed on the user. There are internet companies that could be taxed, for instance. There's so many other ways, there's so many other options. So, but yeah, I think as we keep thinking about this discussion, let's think about our roles and what we can do to really move the discussion forward. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think the last two discussions have actually really talked about real things, especially what Evelyn has just been talking about. I also agree with her that supporting taxes on the social media, other social media platforms really will not take us to create an environment where we have access. We are talking about ICT for all. When are we going to achieve that? Are we really supporting the World Economic Forum agenda of ICT for all? If we are doing so, why are we actually still going back here? Is there any way we can actually create a tax that not touch the social media platforms? Can we have a different way of raising our revenue? I believe that there are so many ways that we can raise revenue. To me, it drives away the different economic initiatives that are coming towards our people to benefit. There are so many people who might be looking at how best can I invest in a social media platform? How can I invest in a social media innovations that the young Ugandans are looking forward? There are so many young Ugandans that are coming up with different ideas, but now if some of their initiatives are being actually bogged down, to me, I find it's really not good. If we want to tax, why can't we tax Facebook? Why can't we tax the people who initiated the idea, not actually tax the users? This should have actually gone direct to Facebook and say, we summon Facebook and say, why did you bring this to our country? Yeah, to me, that's an argument that probably I can look at. But now we cannot run away from it. We are part of it. We need to actually accept and go with it. Sometimes it's actually something come, but the acceptability is also the best way to go. So for me, I would encourage you as young Ugandans, let's take on, we continue supporting. That's also the way of supporting the government in other way. And we push on. And the last word that I want to pass on is, come next year, I know we have so many important events that personally I would encourage you to participate. I know we have the African Internet Summit that is going to be in Uganda, that we need to really come up and participate. We are going to have the ICT 4D that is going to be in Uganda. It has never been in Uganda. I'm part of the committee for ICT 4D. The call for application is already out. Before I move out, let's share on the WhatsApp so that we all apply and make sure that we participate come April 30 to the 5th of May 2019. You might be able to get a scholarship to probably go and stay at Munyonyo, even if you come from Kampala. So it's a matter of applying early and make sure that the abstract is not something that is complicated. They are looking at the local content from within the country. So why not come out with our local content and make sure that we dominate the conference? We always go for conferences, ask Evelyn. You find it's only the whites. I'm happy that I'm not seeing any. If anybody is having that citizen, I'm sorry, but that's actually the truth. I was in South Africa a month ago, and I was the chairman for a summit, and you see different people, not actually as Uganda, but people were wondering how Uganda is actually sharing a big summit that is actually housing so many people. We have attended so many conferences in Mexico. You look how many Ugandans were there. I think we were about 3 or 4. In Geneva, how many people were there? Very few of the Africans. I was in Zambia last month for the ICT 4D. Very few Ugandans were there, but now this opportunity has come. Why not to dominate it this time and participate?
Thank you very much, Tonny. Thank you very much. We've come to the end of this session, and I would like us to give a round of applause to our panelists. They can now leave the stage. I will revert back to someone else. I am done here. I think someone will come and make some more remarks after me. Thank you very much. Panelists, you feel free to leave the stage now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Douglas. And thank you, our panelists. Please, let's give them another round of applause. It has been a wonderful discussion. And right now, we're going to go in for lunch.